It was my dream to move across the world to start a new life in Australia. And honestly, I thought I knew exactly what I was getting myself into, but the truth is, I didn't. Not even close. And when I got here, culture shock hit me hard, and I needed to adapt quickly. But now, almost a year later, I thought it'd be a good time to share with you what I think of Australia as a British person. So, let's go. So everyone back at home always says to me, Sam, you must be living the dream out there, it must be absolutely perfect, it must be so easy. And in reality, it's not. So when I landed here, there were actually quite a few weeks of culture shock, and I really didn't expect that at all. But just before I get onto the negatives, let me just walk you through a few of the things that I absolutely love about Australia. So the thing I love the absolute most about Australia is the accent. And when I tell Aussies that, they look at me like I've gone mad. But for me, it goes a lot deeper than that because my wife is Australian, as a lot of you know, and I met her on an acting job in Japan. Our separate groups of mates ended up in the same theatre watching the same show. She decided to sit next to me, and when we started talking, I heard this beautiful voice. I think I pretty much fell for her right then and there. So soppy stuff aside, I've always had a soft spot for the Aussie accent, and it gets a lot of hate online, and I just think it's so cheap when other cultures are like mocking other people's accents. The other thing is how busy it is in the city in Brisbane before 9 a.m. I will go for my run in the morning to get it out the way, and you know, everyone else has the same idea, which is really cool. I love the atmosphere, but it's so interesting because as soon as it hits 9 a.m. or 10 a.m, it's dead quiet. And look, I know, all over the globe, this is a very typical thing to do before work, but in Australia, it's like to the extreme. But as time ticks on, the novelty starts to wear off and you start to experience some of the culture shock that you weren't expecting moving here. You start to experience homesickness. You start to miss parts of your culture. For example, when I moved into this apartment with my wife, the morning and the afternoon and the evening routines that I had back in the UK just didn't really match the lifestyle here. So I had to adapt, I had to learn new things. But honestly, if I had to give you the biggest negative about moving to Australia as a British person, it's the homesickness. It really is. And I found it quite difficult to make friends here in Australia, if I'm being completely honest. Now, this isn't helped by the fact that I'm a bit of a workaholic when it comes to my business and my YouTube channel. It doesn't really help that, you know, I want to try and maintain my friendships and my family relationships back in the UK by, you know, getting those FaceTime calls in. And obviously, I've got a partner and it's important that we get date night in. So in and amongst all of that and running, making time for friends is a serious commitment that you have to put in your calendar, at least for me. So don't worry, I've started to make a few friends here in Australia, really good people. The other part of homesickness is that after a year, I'm starting to miss parts of my culture. I'm starting to miss proper digestive biscuits. And there are things that I can get in the supermarket here, but sometimes it's just not the same as, you know, walking around Asda with your mum and dad and getting some British sweets in. And I found, at least with my circle here in Australia, it's not as common to go into someone's house and for them to, you know, offer to make you a cup of tea. And I know that sounds very British of me, but little things like that I really miss. You know, in the UK, you have to make someone a cup of tea if they walk in the door. I've made it sound like a law. It's not a law, but it is an unwritten rule. And oh, I am really missing a Sunday roast. If anyone knows a good Sunday roast in Brisbane, please let me know. So when you move here, you're so excited, getting all the travel adventures in, it's great. But then when you're actually living here and you're calling this place home, there are unexpected emotional costs that you didn't even realise you'd encounter. I didn't think that I would get that homesick, but here we are. But the thing is, the negatives that I have with Australia aren't really with Australia. They're more sort of, you know, personal battles that you go through when you move to a different country. But honestly, it's kind of fun being on this emotional roller coaster because it makes those times when I visit back home to the UK even more special. Okay, so You remember I promised you complete honesty throughout the entirety of this video. Well, here's the truth. Yes, there are some negatives about Australia that we've been through. But the truth is, I've achieved more in this year living in Australia than any other year in my life. Of course, this is down to the work I've put in, but I must say that throughout the majority of my life in the UK, when I wasn't just chilling out, hanging out with family, having a good time, all of my work felt like an uphill battle with no end in sight. And the other thing I need to take into account is that before I moved here, I picked up this book called The 12-Week Year by Brian P. Moran. If you haven't read it, I would highly recommend you pick up a copy. But I read that book, started setting some of my big goals for the year, but putting them in a 12-week segments instead. And somehow in Australia, I started achieving those goals out of nowhere. With those two things aside, I can safely say that Australia made it easier for me to work harder, be more productive, and basically excel in every area of my life. I was training for a marathon in the brutal Brisbane humidity. Brisbane is very hilly in the suburbs, so that was also giving me extra gains in my running training. And then I visit family in the UK, run the Portsmouth Marathon. It's been my goal for the entirety of last year to run a sub 3.5 hour marathon, and I run it in 3 hours, 28 minutes. I don't think that would have been possible if I wasn't living in Australia. The majority of my teenage years when I was trying to make YouTube videos, I never got any more than 300, 400 subscribers, even though I was trying really hard to make it a thing. And then I come to Australia, I start getting more focused on it, becomes easier to work here, and then I hit 10,000 subscribers. By the way, if you're one of them, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Of course, it comes down to my work. Of course it does. But I've been able to put more focus and effort and be generally more productive here in Australia than the UK, and that's just the truth. And lastly, let's talk about a bit of money. I don't know what that is. That made me cringe. So right now I do freelance video editing for other YouTubers. I've done this for about 1.5 years. That income has increased by an extra like £1,000, which is like 2,000 Australian dollars. It's just so much easier. I don't know why. The work itself can still be difficult, but just getting yourself up out of bed, having a beautiful Aussie coffee in the gorgeous sunshine with the birds chirping, the tropical Jurassic Park birds, it's just easier to work here. For me, anyway. And one really beautiful thing is that I get to see my wife be reunited with her parents and her family, which is just nice as a husband to see that she's getting that quality family time in. And the thing is work, right? But it is so much easier to work, and it is so much easier to improve the quality of your work when you're in sunshine. And as a Brit who spent the first 25 years of his life in the UK, I can safely say that that is true. So now that I've been here for a while, how do I really see Australia as a British person? Well, let me tell you, it's not perfect, but neither is the UK, as I've mentioned in the past. Now I've been living here for a year, I've realised that there's actually so much good in the UK. There's a lot of good people, a lot of good places to live, there's loads of amazing things to do, it's got great history, and the thing is, although today it's been really grey and rainy, Australia is paradise. It's unlike anywhere I've ever been in the entire world, and I'm truly thankful to God that I've been blessed with this amazing opportunity, because it's not easy moving here, that's for certain. But while I do love the UK, it's not been the best environment for me to grow. Like, the drinking culture ended up giving me a bit of an alcohol problem, which took me quite a long time to battle and defeat. I found university really difficult there, not only because of that, but seasonal affective disorder, how expensive it is to live there and to be a student, how difficult it is to sometimes find a job you love there. That's why I started my own business, because it just wasn't working following the 9-to-5 route. And even chasing your own personal goals, it just feels more difficult in the UK. I loved living there when I've got no work to do, but when I need to be productive, I feel like I need to be in Australia. And Australia has really taught me the impact that your environment has on you. Look, I know that it's not possible for everyone to move to a place like Australia, but if you are blessed with that lack of responsibility, if you can save up, oh my word, I would definitely encourage at least visiting here, see if you like it. You'll probably love it. And if you found any of this interesting, I have a free Move to Australia guide and a free weekly newsletter. So if you want to sign up for them and learn about a few more of my thoughts on this sort of weird lifestyle living between two countries, then I will leave that link in the description below. So if this resonated with you, you're probably wondering how I now see the UK after spending almost a year in Australia, as I didn't really go into much detail about it in this video. So if you are, go watch this video right now, and thank you so much for watching to the end. I'll see you in the next one.